Thank you, Jason. Earlier this week, Parkersburg City Council held a meeting that led to an argument over public speaking rules at council meetings. Our Thomas Chase joins us with reactions to that meeting.
Emotions broke out at Tuesday's Parkersburg City Council meeting. The debate was regarding public comment rules. Brian Hayden, a frequent speaker at council meetings, was speaking about the transfer of money from the stormwater budget being moved to the general fund. Council President Mike Reynolds barred Hayden and ordered him to be removed. In an interview with WTAP Tuesday, Reynolds believes that Hayden was being, quote, boisterous, sometimes slanderous, and breaking the rules.
I had a few people on council that called and said they were really tired of him coming in and breaking these rules. So I thought, well, there's nothing better to do than to bring it up, and I'll rule on it, and then council can vote on whether or not to back the chair or whether to let Mr. Hayden continue to break the rules. So
Hayden argues that he never broke the rules.
Everything I've spoken to has been facts. They've been provable, and they have been directly related to what these individuals have done professionally.
District 4 Council member Wendy Tuck brought up a vote during Tuesday's meeting regarding allowing Hayden to continue to speak at future meetings. The council voted 6-3 to overturn President Reynolds' decision. District 7 Council member Chris Rexroad, who voted against banning Hayden, spoke on his vote.
I feel like if you're talking about something on the agenda or how we as elected officials have voted on an issue, I don't think that falls under a personal attack. I think anybody should have the right and the ability to tell us they don't like what we are doing as council. You know, if it starts going into our personal lives or something like that that has nothing to do with council or the government, yeah, maybe there's an argument there. But if you're addressing council and you are telling us that you don't like what we're doing from our professional capacity as an elected representative, you have every right to call us out by name.
According to District 5 Council member Zach Huffman, rules regarding public comments changed earlier this year to where the public could only comment on agenda items.
When the consideration for that started, I just had a feeling that it was going to make things very tense between the public and council. And I think that what happened Tuesday, I think it was just kind of everything coming to a head. When we originally changed the rule to the restricted public forum, I voted against it. And I also voted against banning Mr. Hayden.
Hayden said that Tuesday's meeting won't stop him from attending future city council meetings.
I'm going to be living here for a long time, and I want to see our community grow back to and beyond what it was in its past. We have wonderful people in our community. We have a lot of great resources, and we should be using them to develop a community that takes care of its own and helps everybody.
You know, council spoke and they overruled the chair, and so they'll have to maybe live with those consequences. So he'll get to continue talking and continue talking however he wants to, and so we'll see. We'll see when the new council president takes over.
In Parkersburg, I'm Thomas Chase with WTAP News.
Betty Hutchins.